Mr. Kazi, in your testimony, you summarize in your recommendations that you suggest China should pass, or Congress should pass legislation requiring banks to include their investment exposure to China in their annual reports and disclosures. Would you like to elaborate on that just a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a big problem right now where we don't know what exposure American banks have domestically, right? Forget knowing sectors, forget knowing specific industries. We just don't have data on even overall information, and I have asked around for it. So I think, we need to give, again, as I said earlier, tools to the right bodies here, whether it be the SEC or another body, so that they can start collecting that information. Because before we can figure out which companies are getting American money that perhaps is a national security concern, let's even start by figuring out just how big the problem is.
I thank you for that. And, one of the things, I sit on the Financial Services Committee myself, and along with Mr. Barr here, and, we've had the CEOs of the 5 largest banks in front of us, and we've asked the question of them, on your website, you talk about all the social justice things you support and all the civil rights things you support in this country, yet you go to China and you ignore the genocide that's going on, you ignore the slave labor that's going on, and you basically ignore the fiduciary responsibility that you have to your investors by continuing to do business with the Chinese Communist Party. And so what do you have to say about that? And their answer is silence. They really can't give you a good answer. So, my concern is we need to be forcing them somehow they have a fiduciary responsibility to give this information to their investors. Just like the BlackRocks, the Vanguard, State Streets of the world, when they invest your pension funds in China and Chinese companies, they need to be giving information to their investors saying, these are your risks. And I think Ms. Lonsberry was talking about the vectors of risk here, if I'm not mistaken. We've got to start talking about that and force these companies to do that. Do you have some ways that we can make that happen, or some ideas or recommendations?
Look, I think this is, let's start thinking about this a little bit more. We have to figure out what the right bodies are. To me, this is quite frankly very straightforward. Why is it that when they're disclosing during annual disclosures to the SEC, they do not put this out there, right? The information is there. The information specifically that I'm talking about in terms of exposure to different companies, it's not like they don't have it. Why are they not making this clear? And it can be done in a manner that doesn't jeopardize their distinct competitive advantages when it comes to investing, while getting, I think, the government the proper oversight that it needs access to.
Mr. Shum, thank you for being here, and we certainly empathize with your situation with your wife, sir. Somebody just made the comment about the CCP thinks nothing of arbitrarily seizing property. I believe you made that comment, if I'm not mistaken. Would you like to give us an idea? We sit here and we've done a military exercise, a war game exercise where China invaded Taiwan, and the exercise that our choices were that we actually sanctioned China. At that point, what do you think would happen to the American businesses in China once they go into Taiwan and we sanction them? What would happen to all American businesses and assets that are there?
I think the starting point is they are hostage to start. That's the starting point. And then the decision they're going to make is, so essentially, is if you put it bluntly, is a rich hostage I'm going to slaughter. That, I would guess for their own sake, they may not slaughter everybody, but they will selectively slaughter some for sure.
Okay, with regards to the business, are you talking about individuals or businesses there?
Yes, I'm talking about business.
Business, okay. So they're going to absorb the business. They're going to nationalize all the businesses, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just to give you an example, so my ex-wife, she was never accused of anything, never been charged with anything. She disappeared for 4 years. She came out, she was released on the eve. She came out on the eve of my book publishing to come out to call me. And then one of the projects we did was we developed Bulgaria Hotel at Beijing. So one of the most luxury hotel in China. And it's been taken. And there's no explanation, no process, no nothing, gone.
So it would seem to me that should also be another risk that should be disclosed by investment managers, asset managers, banks, anybody who invests and does business in China to their stockholders, their shareholders, their investors. Would you not, this sort of activity that this thing could happen in a way that they could lose all of their money?
Yes.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.